All right, so y'all want to hear something crazy? Listen to this, right? How counterfeit money actually works. Let's check this out.
My name's Jeff Turner. I printed over $1 million in U.S. banknotes, and this is how crime works.
Did he just say he printed over what? No.
I've been called the Picasso of counterfeiting. From my perspective, it wasn't that hard to do it, if that makes sense. It just took a lot of trial and error, basically. The bills just progressively got better and better until eventually got caught, and the Secret Service said the bills I was making were the best they've seen in 25 years.
Jeez. Bible paper.
I started counterfeiting when I kind of found myself in a desperate financial situation. I wrecked a work truck, so I lost my job, and I had a newborn baby at home. The lease was up in our house, so I was just kind of in a desperate spot. I was just trying to think of some way to get my family back on their feet, and counterfeiting just ended up being like the safest, easiest way. The majority of the money I printed was the 96 series $100 bill. I also counterfeited some of the 2013, the new blue notes, but really that was more of like a hobby for me, like just kind of a challenge. The longest process to start counterfeiting was making the digital files. I would say I spent 2 months of just editing these images. Really, Wikipedia has pretty high resolution photos in their stock, and I broke the image.
Yo, man, the internet has birthed more criminals than you can ever imagine, bro. Did you see how he just went to Google? They went straight to Google, man. The internet is responsible for a majority of the criminals today.
Has pretty high resolution photos in their stock, and I broke the image down to multiple layers. So I would have one image of just the background color. I'd jumble up the serial numbers. I knew I needed to find a real thin paper that was opaque enough to where you couldn't see the strip and watermark through the face of the bill. I went through rice paper, vellum paper, tracing paper, toilet paper, wrappers on toilet paper. I ended up finding that Bible paper was perfect. Bible paper glows a dull purple just like money does. I would acquire the Bible paper by going into like bookstores and just kind of taking out the blank pages. Inevitably, I ran out of bookstores in Knoxville. I would coat the bills with a matte lacquer spray can, which basically enabled the counterfeit detection pens to mark.
This joker made counterfeit bills out of Jesus' words, fam. Oh my God. Out of Jesus' words, not the Bible paper, fam. The words that, the paper that Jesus' words goes on, like you did that, like, I hope he repented.
Yellow. I would also use invisible ink UV pen to draw an invisible line over the strip. I also found a certain type of iridescent green eyeshadow that I would basically paint on to the 100 in the bottom corner to kind of replicate the color shifting ink. One cashier would run her fingernail along a Benjamin Franklin shirt to kind of feel the rigid texture. I ended up going to like a Hobby Lobby and I found a fine tip glue pen. It would dry and give a little texture to a shirt. The 3D security ribbon on the modern $100 bill was hard to crack. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing kind of outsources a company to produce the paper and some of the security features. And I was able to find the patent rights, so it's like it basically explained how to do it. The trial and error was definitely frustrating. When I first started counterfeiting, I would just experiment and I'd mess up 5 for every one that I made well. Towards the end, I could make a perfect counterfeit $100 bill in probably 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh.
I've had a few printers kind of break on me. Sometimes the paper would just get so jammed up. It's not so much noisy because I'm using digital printers, but the matte lacquer spray smells really bad. So a lot of times, like, maids at hotels would come into my room and thinking we're like huffing paint or like something, I'd have to say, oh, my wife spilled nail polish, or, just make up these little lies. But eventually I rented a house and I had ventilation fans that would suck the matte lacquer out the window, so I could kind of spray the bills in front of this exhaust fan that it kind of sucked it.
You might as well just got an RV and went out in the middle of nowhere, kind of like Breaking Bad, and just became like the Heisenberg of counterfeit money. Like, fam, that's all I was thinking about while he was talking about the fans, the smell. Every year I go back and watch Breaking Bad, and I just did it again.
Get out the window. There weren't really like big stockpiles of counterfeit money. I would try to like essentially launder the money every day. So I'd print maybe 2,000, 5,000 in the morning and early afternoon, and then I'd try to break all those bills before the end of the night. There was probably like 10 or 20 of like the big corporations, retail, grocery stores, Walmart type stores, and those were the best to break the bills at. I also sold bills to people. 25 cents on the dollar was kind of the going rate. If I was breaking a bill in a store, I would try to go to female cashiers, and if I sent women in with the bills, I would tell them to go to male cashiers. When I would break a bill, I'd give them the exact coinage to kind of distract them a little bit. The majority of your amateur type counterfeiters get kind of called out at the register, and they'll get a license plate number or something, and I would like always park my car far away so they could never get my license plate. I steered away from self-checkout machines because they were just too hard to beat. Some of them even have like photographic software where it just analyzes like the microprinting and all that stuff. In the beginning, I was definitely nervous because I spent so much time perfecting these bills that I would notice any little error or anything like that. I think I've got an attention to detail that most people probably don't have, and the knowledge I have for the security features I study extensively. There was a few times that I would go to the same grocery store, and it turns out that the bills I'd spent last week, they found out about them. But really, most of the time, when a cashier, even if the cashier kind of knows it's fake, they usually give it back to you. Over the 2 years that I was counterfeiting, I probably only had like maybe 3 or 4 cashiers turn me down. And I was spending, thousands of dollars every day. Luckily for me, they only had, I think, like 12 surveillance videos of me. So I was pretty good about kind of staying anonymous. There was a be on the lookout for me and my wife breaking a bill at a specific store. They didn't know my name, though. It was just a picture. The Secret Service has the capability of kind of building cases on people, but as far as local police, I mean, they can't really do much about it,
Like, and I'm sitting here racking my brain, I'm like, when he talked about breaking the bills, I'm like, why didn't he, or I wonder if he tried to do it on like the street. But then I'm thinking, how could you break a bill on the street, It's no possible way unless you buying from like little mom and pop stores or stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm just curious to know why he went to like these big time stores and stuff like that instead of just strictly staying to the mom and pops.
Knoxville has a lot of dealers from out of town. Basically, drugs are more expensive in Knoxville than they are in Detroit or Chicago or Cleveland or Atlanta. So a lot of people kind of go to these mid-level cities to sell their drugs because you can get a brick in Detroit for like $25,000 and then cut it and go sell it for, $100,000 in Knoxville. I was addicted to drugs at the time, so a lot of it was buying drugs with the bills. A few dealers I was honest with, and I would say, this is what I do, and I ended up selling some bills to a drug dealer from Cleveland. But there was a couple cases of I would buy drugs from these people with the counterfeit money, and the guy that actually ended up setting me up I probably got him for like close to $10,000 over about a month's period. And he said that it was raining one day and one of my bills got wet and the color shifting makeup smeared off. So he found out that they were fake. He was just kind of impressed and, wanted to start buying them from me. These people would drive from Knoxville up to Detroit to buy like a brick of heroin, and they would mix in like 5 or 10,000 of my bills when they went to their city to re-up.
Yo, this dude here?
All different stores have their specific method of detecting counterfeit bills.
I'm surprised he's still alive. You know what I mean? You play with people like that. You play with money like that on the street. People will have you done in. Like, you playing with their money. They already doing illegal activity, and you come handing them money and taking their stuff, and then they can't even use the. Yeah, I'm surprised he still lives.
And a lot of like the big retailers just use the counterfeit pens. So they typically just mark the bill, and then, if it marks properly, they cash it. If someone's buying a real cheap item with a $100 bill, that's probably more reason to take a closer look at it. Like looking for the strip and the watermark, holding the bill up to the light helps. Really the best way to tell if a bill's real is like putting it in a bill validator. This is the more modern Blue Note $100 bill. If you hold the bill at a certain angle and shift it, the ink turns from a metallic green to a copper. It's used with magnetic ink. So if you fold the bill in half and set it on the table, you can actually lift it up with a neodymium magnet. There's enough magnetism to actually lift the bill up off the table. So some cashiers will scratch the shirt to feel a kind of rigid texture in the bill. The bills are printed on an intaglio press that kind of raises the ink above the paper, which gives it a certain type of texture. Bills are really hard. There's kind of like a real crisp feeling to it. Well, yeah, there is a smell to money, and my bills, I've had a couple people, if I sprayed the matte lacquer like too soon to spending it, you know what I mean? Like a couple people would complain of a smell. I mean, they always accepted the bills because really like every security feature that a cashier would look for, my bills had. So even if they were kind of suspicious or even brought up something like the smell, they still accepted it because there was really no reason to believe it was counterfeit.
I'm just like, I am blown away by how. And then this dude is very, very smart. Very, very smart. He can easily like take his talents somewhere and get like a high-paying, successful job in stuff like this. Maybe even go work for the Fed with money or whoever prints the money or get a job there or something like that. He's very, very intelligent and has broken this down to a science.
It was 2019. The dealer from Cleveland, he got arrested up there. He either got caught with my counterfeit money or heroin. And, it didn't take him long to inform on me. And then from there, the Secret Service raided my hotel room. I was in the process of printing when they kicked the door in. So they found computers and printers, and I think I had like 6,400 in counterfeit bills that I tried to flush down the toilet. They pretty much caught me red-handed at that point.
Jeez.
I was basically looking at like about 3 years, but the Secret Service came to me and basically said that if I pleaded guilty and showed them how I did everything, then they wouldn't charge my wife with anything, and they would give me cooperation credit, and they'd keep my restitution amount under $100,000. So with the cooperation, that got reduced to 10 to 16 months. The maximum sentence is 20 years. I think, white-collar criminals should still go to prison. I mean, I deserve to go, to prison. I was lucky with the amount of time that I served. It got me sober. really it was for the best in my particular case.
I can respect that. You know what I mean? Dude did the crime, he did his time, and he repaid his debt to society. You know what I mean? And he's sitting down talking about it. Like, I can respect dude.
There are organizations in other countries, that have taken a liking to counterfeiting. It's obviously extremely profitable. And, I've heard that a lot of counterfeits come out of Lima and, Medellin. I've seen some bills that I was told came from like South America, but the quality wasn't very good, I didn't think. It's criminal organizations in the drug trade. And just like from my experience, people who were in the drug trade, obviously they're opportunists. If there's a way to make money any other way, from my experience, they'll do it. There's a supernote, they say, most likely coming out of North Korea, produced by the North Korean government, that is indistinguishable from legitimate currency. It's supposedly has not only all the security features, but all of them done pretty flawlessly.
So my question is, how do we know? How do we know we're not being handed? Because he got past a lot of people. So that means that fake money, once he gave it to the store, they in turn could have gave it to somebody else. Now it's floating all around. So it's like, we got to figure out how to spot this ourselves.
I started counterfeiting when I was 19 years old. I read The Art of Making Money, a book about Art Williams, who was a counterfeiter up in Chicago. And that kind of gave me the original idea, but everything else was kind of like my own methods. The bills weren't super sophisticated, but they were good enough to sell. A friend of mine's dad was kind of like a connected guy in Tampa, but then my friend overdosed and died. I basically just stopped doing it. At that point I didn't want to get caught, and of course when I started up again later on, it's all because of, just a desperate financial situation that kind of, I was racking my brain for any ways to make quick money. I don't think, there will ever be a way to prevent counterfeiting. Even if it goes digital, there's still ways of counterfeiting cashless. Like a person I know was counterfeiting credit cards. The $1 million or so that I had made over my career hasn't impacted the economy much, I would say, but maybe on like the local level it might make people lose trust in cash. In fact, a lot of stores in Knoxville don't accept $100 bills anymore. They've got little signs at like Dollar Generals and certain stores that I frequented. Obviously, this whole situation kind of flipped my life upside down. I'm sure it wasn't easy on my kids. I had to go to prison. My wife and I are now separated. So, I mean, it's been, rough on all of us. Now I am the production manager at a printing and graphics company in Knoxville. So, yeah, just still printing, just not...
Told you.
Nothing illegal.
Now to the story of a sea monster with 130 razor-sharp teeth, the biting force of a T-Rex, and a skull measuring 2 meters. It might sound like the stuff of legend, but this creature really did exist around 75 million years ago, and it was called pliosaur. And a fossil of its enormous jaws has been now found off Dorset's Jurassic Coast. Our science editor, Rebecca Morell, went for an exclusive look.
Okay. Oh, wow.
There you go.
It's huge.
Unveiling a Jurassic sea monster. This is the 2-metre-long skull of a pliosaur, one of the most fearsome predators the planet has ever seen.
So it's got big teeth, excellent for stabbing and killing its prey. It doesn't chew its food, it just breaks into bits and digests.
Throws it back to get in there.
And digests the bone and everything.
Steve Etchers led the efforts to unearth and prepare this ancient aquatic beast.
So what makes this unique is it's complete. So the lower jaws and the upper skull are meshed together as it would be in life. To find that, I think worldwide, there's hardly any specimens ever found to that level of detail. And if they are, a lot of the bits are missing. Whereas this, although it's slightly distorted, it's got every bone present. It's one of the best fossils I've ever worked on. I'll never probably work on another one.
Yeah, I still think we'd have survived if the dinosaurs. You think we'd have survived with them? Our teeth like that, we wouldn't have.
The snout was discovered by a fossil enthusiast on a beach near Kimmeridge Bay in Dorset.
I just found something quite extraordinary. It's the jaw of a massive pliosaur. It's enormous. It must have just come out of a cliff up there somewhere.
Over the course of weeks, the rest was excavated. A perilous process, with Steve and the team dangling off ropes halfway down a fast-eroding cliff face. It was all followed by a BBC documentary team and Sir David Attenborough.
In these waters, underneath my feet, lurked the ultimate marine predator, the pliosaur.
This gigantic reptile lived 150 million years ago. Reaching more than 12 metres in length, its bulky body was powered through the water with huge paddle-like limbs. It would have terrorised the oceans.
So what we're looking at here is a surface scan of the skull of the pliosaur.
Scientists have scanned the fossil to try and learn more about its bite with its 130 razor-sharp teeth. They've calculated it had a bite force similar to a T-Rex.
I think what we're looking at here is the top predator in the environment. You know, this animal had a huge bite. It would have been able to eat pretty much everything else that was around in the water at that time, including some other very large animals as well, other pliosaurs and plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, other marine crocodilians as well too, would all be potential prey items for this animal.
The dark clay of Dorset's Kimmeridge Bay is rich in fossils. Why is that?
150 million years ago, this whole area would have been a tropical ocean. And the cliffs behind me were the mud on the sea floor, where the bodies of prehistoric sea creatures were buried. And there they remained, hidden away for millions of years. It's only now, as the rocks crumble, that these fossilised skeletons are finally being revealed.
The exact location where the pliosaur's head was found is a closely guarded secret. The team believes the rest of the skeleton is still embedded in the cliffs.
I'll stake my life and the rest of the animal is there, that's for sure. Really, it should come out because it's in a very rapidly eroding environment. This part of the cliff is going back by feet a year, and it won't be very long before the rest of it sort of drops out and it gets lost. So it would be advantageous to do this because the opportunity is once in a lifetime.
The pliosaur will be put on display in Dorset in the new year, and it will bring scientists from all around the world to study it, to learn more about this monster of the seas and the world it lived in all those millions of years ago. Rebecca Morrell, BBC News, the Jurassic Coast in Dorset.
Jurassic Park is coming, bro. Because once they get all these fossils, next is them trying to extract DNA and do all of that type of stuff that we saw in the movie. It's coming. It's probably already started, but